everyone, and welcome to a new video where we are going to learn a lot of interesting facts about many different species of dinosaurs. Also, in today's video, we are going to use a new book, the Book of Amazing Dinosaurs. We are going to open one of its pages at random to see which surprise dinosaur we get to learn about today. Look, it's a type of long-necked dinosaur. At the top, we see the scientific name Ampelosaurus. It tells us that it lived in the Cretaceous period, more than 73 million years ago. It could reach about 15 meters in length and approximately 3 meters in height. Obviously, it was a herbivorous dinosaur that fed on plants at ground level or even on the leaves at the top of the trees. I find it curious because it even looks like an armored dinosaur. Its skin is very thick, and the entire upper part is covered with large spikes. Impressive! Well, now let's open our box to see all the dinosaurs we have inside. Let's learn in a playful way through all the figures and take a look. There are a lot of different species. Let's take them all out to learn their names and their characteristics. Let's see which is the first dinosaur to come out. Well, it looks like we have another dinosaur, the Diplodocus. As you can see, the figures are quite small, but I like them because they seem to be good quality, and they come with different textures and shades. This time, it's a Diplodocus. The Diplodocus also had a long, whip-like tail that it used as a defense mechanism. Therefore, if a super predator came to attack, it would start whipping its tail very quickly and violently in order to defend itself. As you can see, it has a long neck and a very small head compared to the rest of its body. It could reach about 22 meters in length. It was a giant among giants. It fed on plants, leaves, and grass, and it also had 4 large legs. Its hind legs were bigger and stronger than the front ones, since it needed a lot of strength in the back to swing its tail very fast. Earth in the Jurassic period more than 200 million years ago. And let's continue with another one. Let's see. It looks like we have a super predator. At the bottom, the name of the dinosaur appears, which I love, because if we ever have any doubts, we can check it. It tells us that it's an Aalosaurs. As you can see, it was a bipedal dinosaur that walked on its hind legs. Unlike the great Tyrannosaurus rex, the Aalosaurs had 3 claws on each of its front legs, and its jaw was also full of teeth. In this figure, we can't really see it very well, but the Aalosaurs, when it reached adulthood, had 2 small bumps, or crests, on top of each of its eyes. We can even see its nostrils. As you can see, it was a bipedal dinosaur and had a long tail that it used for balance. Another one over here. Let's continue with the next one. This is a dinosaur with a crown-shaped skull from the Triceratops family, although we can see some differences, especially in its head. For now, I already love the colors it has. I find it very colorful. At the bottom, it tells us that this is a Styracosaurus. The Styracosaurus was generally smaller than the big one, Triceratops, but as the main difference, we see that instead of 3 horns, it had a large horn on the top of its nose. Also, all around the outside of its skull, in a crown shape, we see large spikes. For example, the Triceratops had smaller spikes, while the Styracosaurus had gigantic spikes that were smaller on the inside and got bigger, reaching their greatest height at the central top part. Impressive! Another one. Over here. Let's see which one we get now. Let's see. We have another big carnivore. This time it's a Velociraptor. Velociraptors were much smaller carnivores than, for example, the great T-Rex. However, they were able to catch large prey because they hunted in groups or packs. Something very characteristic about the Velociraptor is its long front legs. They were able to catch their prey or even use them to grab meat and bring it to their mouths. This way, it was easier for them to eat. It also had a unique feature, which was the claws on its hind legs, as you can see, super large and shaped like a hook. The Velociraptor could run at high speed because it had a rather slim and lean body. It also used its long tail to help steer while it was running. It's one of my favorite carnivores. Its jaw wasn't very big, but it did have very sharp teeth. Let's continue with another one. We have another dinosaur, one of the long-necked ones. We can see some differences compared to the great Diplodocus. The one we have now is called Brachiosaurus. As you can see, the shape of its neck is different. It's positioned more vertically. It also differs from other long-necked dinosaurs. In the shape of its head, it has a small bump or crest on the top. Another interesting detail is that its front legs are bigger and taller than the back legs to support the weight of this long neck. Well, we've already met two long-necked dinosaurs. Both have long necks, but the shape of their bodies is very different. Let's pause and see what else comes up. And take a look at this. It resembles a dinosaur, but isn't one. This animal is a carnivore, and it's called Dimetrodon. In fact, it lived on planet Earth long before the dinosaurs. It's an animal that lived on planet Earth during the Permian period, which means it's a prehistoric animal. The Dimetrodon was characterized by having a large crest of spines on the top of its body, which could reach up to 2 meters in height. As you can see, its body is very similar to that of modern lizards, but this one was gigantic in size. It loved being both in the water and on land, and it was obviously a carnivore. Look at this large jaw. Its teeth were very robust and strong to be able to chew meat very well. It also had a long tail, so here we have this great prehistoric animal. Let's continue with another one. And we had very small figures, but look at what is coming out now from inside our box. It's a gigantic dinosaur, and it could only be the great Tyrannosaurus rex. The figure is large, it comes in different shades, and it's made of hard plastic. We can only move the jaw since it's articulated. We can see its sharp teeth, but if we open the mouth, we can even see the detail of its tongue and the upper part of its palate. Just the head of the great Tyrannosaurus rex could reach more than 1.5 meters in length, and its teeth could measure about 20 centimeters. The jaw was made up of a total of 60 sharp teeth. The book has more info on the T-Rex. It tells us that it could reach about 13 meters in length and measure about 6 meters in height, and it could even weigh up to 10 tons. Impressive. It fed on other dinosaurs, reptiles, but also on carrion, meaning other dead animals it found.
Its name means tyrant lizard and tells us that it was very intelligent.
Since we've already seen our T-Rex, as you can hear, the bottom part has a button to hear its great roar. Impressive. Well, let's put it aside, because we still have a few small figures left. Look, I'm going to take them all out. We have 3 in total: an armored dinosaur, a dinosaur with a crown-shaped skull. And let's start by talking about this one here, since it's one of my favorite herbivores. Its name is Parasaurolophus. The most distinctive feature is the horn on the back of its head. It used this horn to communicate with the rest of the herd. It made sounds very similar to those of a trombone, so if a super predator came to hunt them, they would start making sounds and warn the rest of the group so they could escape in time. Also, in the figure, we see it walking on all fours, that is, using its 4 legs. However, since its hind legs were quite sturdy, it could also walk by putting all its weight on the back. In a bipedal way, it inhabited planet Earth during the Cretaceous period. Let's continue with the great Triceratops. Earlier, we also saw a similar specimen called Styracosaurus. Here, we can appreciate the differences between the two. As I was saying, the Triceratops is larger. However, its main differences are found in its head. The Triceratops had two large horns above its eyes. Also, the spikes that ran along its skull like a crown were very small, while the Styracosaurus had large spikes. Well, these are the main differences. Finally, we have an armored dinosaur. As you can see, it looks a lot like the great Ankylosaurus. However, we can see some differences, and at the bottom, we also see the scientific name. As you can see, the main difference with the great Ankylosaurus is that this dinosaur doesn't have spikes on the top, but instead, they are concentrated on the sides, in a row. It also comes with a ball or club at the tip to defend itself from predators, swinging its tail from side to side to try to protect itself. As you know, the Ankylosaurus also had an armored head with several spikes. Here, in this figure, I do see a spike on each one. Its skin is very thick and tough to prevent large carnivores from sinking their sharp teeth into it. And now, we've finished today's video. Here are the dinosaurs we've learned about. Honestly, I really like these figures, especially because we had one big figure and lots of little ones. If you enjoyed this video and want to know more about dinosaurs, you can help me by giving me a super like, a thumbs up. And I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. And now, I'll say goodbye. See you in the next video with more amazing dinosaurs. Goodbye, hello everyone, and welcome to a new video where we dive once again into the fantastic world of dinosaurs. And we'll do it to witness the birth of all of them. Inside, we have both herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs. And the best part is that it tells us they come with lights and sounds. Plus, we have them in silver, green, and gold colors. What do you think? Should we start with the gold one? We need to open it from the center. Let's see. Let's use a little force. And here we can already see two dinosaur figures, one herbivore and one carnivore. Also, over here we have the head of another one, which looks like a small Velociraptor. See? On this side, we have a small speaker, so let's remove the seal and check what sound it makes. We close it and press this button. It makes a dinosaur roar. Also, the best part is that it lights up too. Let's turn off the lights so we can see it better, and as you can see, it lights up in red. I'm not sure if the others will have this color or different ones. So let's set this Velociraptor aside. To see the dinosaurs we've gotten, we'll talk about their physical characteristics and also mention some particularities. First of all, we have a carnivorous dinosaur that lived on planet Earth during the Jurassic period. It was one of the first large carnivores that ever existed. It's called Dilophosaurus, and as you can see, it's characterized by the large crests on the top of its nose. It could reach a length of about 6 meters and measure approximately 2 meters in height. As you can see, the figure is quite small. However, it comes with all the details and has an articulated head. Let's see which one is next. We continue with a herbivorous dinosaur. It's an armored dinosaur called Ankylosaurus. It lived in the Cretaceous period, 65 million years ago. The entire upper part of its body was armored, meaning its skin was very thick and tough, and it was completely covered with large spikes. In addition, it had a large defensive tail at the tip of its tail, with a club-like ball that it swung from side to side whenever a predator approached. Its head was also armored, and had spikes both on the sides and on the top. Let's continue learning about more types of dinosaurs, and we'll do it with this green container. It also has a metallic touch, and I love that. We press in the center to open it. And look, here we have a different dinosaur. Let's also take out the little ones, remove the seal, and close it again. It looks like we have a dinosaur on the top part. Of those that had a crown-shaped skull, since it only has one horn on the top of its nose, we already know that it's a Styracosaurus. Since it has just been born, it still doesn't have the large spikes that run along the sides of its crown. We can also see part of its front legs. Now let's press the button to hear it roar. It appears it will light up red and is now ready. And here we have the two miniature dinosaurs that were inside. We also have a carnivorous dinosaur and a herbivorous dinosaur. First, we'll look at this one here, which is called Pachycephalosaurus. It was characterized by the shape of its head. The top part of its head was as hard as a rock. Also, it had large spikes at the back. It used it to deliver its powerful defensive headbutt. That is, when a predator came to attack, it used its big head to deliver strong blows. It also used it to engage in battles against other members of its own species, especially to impress the females. As you can see, it was bipedal, it walked on its hind legs, and it also had a strong beak at the tip of its mouth, something very characteristic of herbivores. The next dinosaur is a super famous carnivore, especially because of the large crest of spines it has. Its name is Dimetrodon. Its body was very similar to that of modern lizards, but on a gigantic scale. Just the crest of spines alone could reach more than 2 meters in length, and its jaw was very strong. As you can see, it walked on all 4 legs, and it loved to dive into the water in search of food, although it was also able to eat small land animals. We'll leave them here so we can continue learning about more dinosaur specimens. Now we have the silver one. We open it and we have 2 new specimens. Also, on the top we have a Velociraptor again. Let's listen to its roar. As you can see, it lights up red. Here we have the little light that turns on and shines throughout the whole container, and here we have a big flying reptile. Look, how cool! As you can see, it had a pretty long neck, but the most distinctive feature was this long beak and a horn on the top of its head, or rather, a crest. We can even see the detail of its tongue. It's a miniature figure, yet it comes with all the details. The bodies of flying reptiles were very similar to those of modern bats. However, these were gigantic in size. That is, they had quite slender bodies, which allowed them to reach great heights and fly at high speeds. The next is a feathered dinosaur. As you can see, everything. Its body is covered with feathers, especially on the back of its front legs and on its long, bushy tail. And it also has a crest of feathers on the back of its head. It has a strong beak, and besides, it's a dinosaur that was quite light. It could run at great speed. We can even see the detail of its tongue. Over here, we have an identification card with information about it. It tells us that its scientific name is Dimetrodon. It could reach about 64 kilometers per hour when running. It also weighed around 50 kilos and measured approximately 2.5 meters. It tells us that it fed on both meat and plants. Let's build a real Jurassic World. Which one's next? Let's uncover the green one. Let's see. We also have a Velociraptor at the top and 2 herbivorous dinosaurs. Look, this figure is quite big, bigger than the previous ones. First, let's listen to the big roar. It also lights up red. Let's uncover it to see.
Here it is.
And now, let's get to know these 2 new dinosaurs. We'll start with this one here. Everyone who watches my videos already knows that Parasaurolophus is one of my favorite herbivores. It was a dinosaur with several interesting features. For example, it had a long horn on the back of its head. This horn was able to produce sounds very similar to those of a trombone. In this way, it could communicate with the rest of the herd, especially when there was a threat. As you can see, the figure can move its head up and down. I like that, because we can pose it crouching as if it were eating grass from the ground. Also, it was a dinosaur that could walk both bipedally and quadrupedally. It had a very robust body and a moderately long tail. It lived in the Cretaceous period more than 65 million years ago. And as you can see, its mouth wasn't very big, since it only had to chew grass and leaves. The next herbivorous dinosaur is from the family with crown-shaped skulls, from the Triceratops family, but of a different species. Look, it has some details with patterns on the part of its frill, and it's characterized by having a horn above its eyes. It was also a quadrupedal dinosaur that walked on all four legs, and we can see its strong beak. This type of dinosaur loved to dig in the ground to look for roots and then eat them. Let's look at its identification card. Here it is. It tells us that its scientific name is Pacarinosaurus. It could reach an approximate weight of about 1,000 to 4,000 kilos, could run at a speed of 45 kilometers per hour, and measured approximately between 6 and 8 meters. Obviously, it didn't eat meat. It only fed on grass, leaves, and fruit. Here's another one. We still have more dinosaurs to learn about.
Wow, friends, what is this?
This one is different from the others. It comes in small bags. For now, we can already see that we have another Velociraptor on the top. Let's open the bag to see what we have. It's a magnifying glass with a red effect, 2 small dinosaurs, and what looks like a map. Friends, we'll open it now. For now, let's take a look at these 2 little dinosaurs. We have a carnivorous dinosaur and a long-necked dinosaur. It might be a Diplodocus. As you can see, these figures aren't as impressive as the previous ones and have very few details. Let's see what we have here now. And yes, it looks like a map. Or rather, maybe it's a game board. I don't know. It tells us that we have to start from here, and here's the final goal. We have to go through various obstacles. We can do it using our dinosaurs as pieces. Also, over here we have this magnifying glass, which is for finding dinosaur fossil remains. For example, here, it looks like we have the skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Thanks to the red magnifying glass, we can see it more clearly. Very interesting. Let's see if we can find another one. Let's see. Over here we have a different one, although it's barely visible. What dinosaur is that? It's cool. Friends? Also, over here we have a big volcano erupting and spewing lava, and now we just have the last dinosaurs left to discover. Also, they come in the golden container, and we also have the head of a Velociraptor. And here I see an animal that isn't a dinosaur. It's a small mammal, a rat, or a rodent. As you know, it's characterized by its long fur and by having a super long tail. They are quadrupeds, and their legs are quite thin. Here we can see the detail of its fur and its ears. But what interests us the most is getting to know the dinosaur. We have a herbivorous dinosaur that fed on plants, and its name is Iguanodon. As you can see, its body was quite large and robust. It was similar to the body of the great Parasaurolophus. As you can see, its head was quite small compared to the rest. Its hind legs were larger and more robust than the front ones. Many times, it would put all the weight of its body on the back part, to walk bipedally, or even to climb trees in search of food. And now we've finished today's video. Here are all the little dinosaurs we've learned about. We also got 2 identification cards. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a super like or thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Now it's time to say goodbye. See you in the next video with more amazing dinosaurs. Bye.